Hello everybody, it's Wyvern here with a bit of Total War Warhammer 2 custom game ridiculousness. So in this matchup I'm going against a player named Prisoner of Warhammer. We actually ran into each other doing quick matches, and our first game was a legit game, but then it seemed like we were the only ones online, and so we got another game against each other, and we decided to go with something a little silly, and we just both decided to do Autogen builds. And then we ran a series of custom battles, all of those with Autogen builds. And it was actually a lot of fun. It was interesting to see what some of the units AI would give you and some of the ridiculous tools you'd get. And so I figured I picked what I think was probably the best of our matchups, or the most entertaining of the bunch, and decided to demonstrate that one. So as you can see, the build that we were both given, surprisingly okay, definitely not great, but surprisingly a bit functional. You can see that we went vampire counts against Brettonians. I was playing vampire counts. For my lord here, I did decide to roll with the red, or, well, I guess I didn't decide. I was given the red Duke. I'm so used to saying I decided to bring, but I sure as heck did not decide to bring him here. But we do have the El Sif. Of course, he's got every spell in the book for the lore of vampires, because that's just how AI rolls. Alongside him, we have a second caster, because if you've got one caster loaded with all his spells, what do you need on top of that? A second caster with all of her spells. So the Vampire of Death here. Fortunately, a respectable melee combatant. Unfortunately, a very expensive investment, no doubt. So this is the AI probably ensured that my command squad here is about a third or maybe more of my army in value. The front line here that the AI gave me, you can see 2 Graveguard as well as a Graveguard with 3 weapons, and in the front we do have a single unit of zombies that we're going to use as a cannon fodder. Behind that, a corpse cart, a balefire corpse cart no less. So as we know, the most valuable unit in the game, the one you always see, totally not the lodestone or totally not a vanilla corpse cart, it's always balefire. So it's really, really good. In all seriousness though, Corpse Cart with Balefire does reduce Winds of Magic generation, which is actually going to be rather useful here, because my opponent landed himself with 2 casters as well. For the rest of the comp, we do have a single unit of Crypt Ghouls here on the flank, a single unit of Vargeist up in the air, and then 2 Vargulfs and dire Wolves here in the back. I do believe there are no regiments of renown in this build, so yeah, it's basically just common stuff. Interestingly enough, Vargeists, yeah, a bit of an iffy situation against Brettonia, who has a lot of decent anti-large options, same with the Vargulfs, but we'll definitely see how they perform. For my opponent's army, he does have a pretty small infantry corps and a lot of cavalry. So quickly going over things, for his lord he was given the Fey Enchantress, who's actually, respectable. She's got, unfortunately, no Chalice of Potions here because it is the Autogen version, but she still does have Favor of the Fey, which is a very, very powerful buff. Lore of Life, which is really strong, and of course that general draining Mortis Engine effect. Alongside her, Grail Relic, providing that additional leadership as well as immunity psychology aura for all these infantry units, which is really important because of course Brettonian infantry likes to rout at the drop of a hat. Finally, a Damsel of Heavens on a horse, because of course Fey Enchantress did not put on the Seal of Our Own, but the Damsel of Heavens is put on a horse. So go figure, that's the luck you get in Autogen, but she of course does have her full complement of Lord of Heaven's magic. Though of course no Power Stone, because God forbid you get extra Winds of Magic. For the rest of the army, as you can see, some Spearmen at Arms here, some Men at Arms. These guys actually do have shields. We've got some Foot Squires, and then 2 units of Peasant Bowmen, both with Pox Arrows. AI seems to be really fond of giving you these guys. Not sure that they'll be most useful, but hey, it is what you get. And then single Blessed Field Trebuchet in the back, and quite a bit of cav. The Defenders of the Fluid, the lead, Knights of the Lion-Hearted, Knights Errant, and a single unit of Mounted Yeomen, as well as some Royal Pegasus Knights. And these guys, Royal Pegasus Knights, if you saw, and I finally supposed Mounted Yeoman Archers, we're going to be skirmishing here with me being a little bit of a nuisance. And I'm going to hit these Royal Pegasus Knights with the Spirit Leech immediately, trying to train them down a little bit. If you saw my tournament gameplay, you saw that the Pegasus Knights did not do very well for me against the Vampire counts, but in this situation where I don't really have the tools to counter them, they could definitely perhaps perform rather well. And Earthblood does go down, which I think is perhaps a little wasted at this point because I was hitting him with Spirit Leech, so I've already drained off the models. But perhaps it was useful. They definitely did give them some of their HP back. It prevents a third model from getting sniped relatively easily. So, regardless, we are pushing into close range. You can see the Graveguard with 3 weapons here having taken quite a pounding from those Trebuchets, already down by about a third of their models before lines have even met, and the Crypt Ghouls here just getting completely dumpstered by that archery fire, and also being reduced by a huge amount. But unfortunately for my opponent, we are going to get the Red Duke here into the melee, starting to chew through these Foot Squires, and that means they're not going to get their charge off, which is rather important since our Graveguard, because that will get a free charge into the fray. We also do have our Vampire of Death, and you can see now the engagement going down on the flank, where the Defenders of the Fleur-de-Lis are going to get jumped by the Direwolves as well as the Vargulfs, and the Vargulfs are just taking these guys to Pound Town. Vargulfs, of course, are very, very potent. melee combatant, very strong unit. A lot of people underestimate these guys. I was actually, this was one of the few units I was happy to see on my army roster, was the Vargulfs. In the meantime, here in the pits, you can see the favor of the Fae is going down on these Royal Pegasus Knights, perhaps better used on the Foot Squires, in fact, just to melt down these Graveguard, but nonetheless, we are definitely taking some heavy casualties. You can see the Corpse Guard with Balefire probably actually very useful here, because there's a lot of enemy units clumped up around here, and that is going to be denying my opponent a lot of Winds of Magic, though nonetheless, that upgraded Earthblood is going down, even as Invocation of the Heck goes down on my units, trying to keep my Varguys, my Graveguard, and all those troops alive. And the Varguys here definitely are going to be dishing out quite a bit of hurt, simply because, you know, these guys do hit pretty hard. They hit like trucks. They're just going to get melted very, very quickly. Meantime, the Red Duke over here fighting as best he can, trying to bring down these Royal Pegasus Knights, trying to bring down these Foot Squires, and we are going to be trying to beat down the Fan Enchantress a little bit, though it's definitely a little difficult to come to grips with her. But with the Defenders of the Fleur de Lis routed off, we are now going to be able to shift the Graveguard towards the heart of things and try to shut down things over here. Unfortunately for me, though, these Skeleton Warriors are going to be able to get intercepted by the Lamb Soul of Heavens and prevented from shutting down these archers, which is going to become a big problem because those archers continue to fire unimpeded, really damaging my troops here. Shield of Thorns does go down, providing these guys with greater weapon strength. Definitely not bad when you've got this much non-AP cavalry on the field. It's one of the things I do enjoy doing in Brettonia. And all the while, of course, the Trebuchet continues firing, blasting Graveguard to the afterlife, and just slowly but surely leveling my troops. But unfortunately, these Pegasus Knights, because they have such a tendency to get snared, they've got such low mass, they are getting trapped here in the fight against the Vargulfs, and despite the Earthblood, despite my opponent's best efforts, they are going to get torn apart rather efficiently. That said, more Knights are going to be coming in from the back, plowing into the Corpse Guard with Balefire, plowing into the back of these zombies, into the back of these Graveguard, doing an immense amount of work. You can see these Graveguards and Grave Weapons are basically goners, and the Knights of Lionheart still on a very healthy models. These Knights Errant still respectable amount of models, and of course they can still be healed if my opponent is able to generate the Winds of Magic for it. Elsewhere, you can see the Defenders of the Fleur de Lis also on 20 models, so if my opponent can get a nice little blob of his cav and he still has enough Winds of Magic for an Earthblood or two, he can easily bring these guys back from the brink. Unfortunately, though, his infantry at this point is kind of falling apart. Foot Squires in full rout, the Men-at-Arms here failing against the Graveguard because that's really not where they want to be in life. And the Spearmen-at-Arms here also getting sort of dragged into the muck, leaving just these Knights Errant who are now being intercepted, now being interdicted by these very angry Vargulfs. And of course, Vargulfs will do some serious hurt onto these poor little Knights, and you can see these guys are just running amok, ready to lay the smack down on these guys. But unfortunately, the continuous hail of pox arrows is really just whittling down on Corpse Guard, whittling down the Graveguard, who surprisingly clung to dear life right up until this moment. But finally, we are going to pull the Vargulfs back, trying to wipe out this annoying Rail Relic and take it offline for good. Because, of course, it has been providing that constant aura, keeping these troops in the fight that we really don't want there anymore. Elsewhere, the Vampire of Death does try to push through, but it's going to get intercepted by the Mounted Yeoman. The Graveguard is basically offline, and now the Archers, you know, they continue firing in. They're doing some work. It's taking them a while. They're definitely not doing amazing work. But the Vargulfs only have 40 armor. They're definitely going to be taking some damage, and although we will be able to take the Grail Relic offline here, it's not going to be quite enough to save these Vargulfs. This Vargulf over here is definitely starting to suffer. It's the Mounted Yeoman raining in, the Pox Arrows raining in, and over here, despite our best efforts, the Vampire of Death prevented from getting into the backline. The Skeleton Warriors, the Graveguard, all of them kind of getting destroyed, and although the balance of power is shifting in my favor, my opponent is definitely doing a very good job here. Just shutting my troops down. You can see another Earthblood going down. Probably that Balefire card definitely playing an important role here, slowing down Winds of Magic generation from the Fan Enchantress, who otherwise has very easy access to Winds of Magic. And of course, with no more Grail Relic, all of these troops are going to start getting routed. You can see just this constant fire from those poison arrows. But the Vargulfs just laying the smackdown, and one of them has gone down here, finally going down, finally meeting his doom. But the Red Duke and the Vampire of Death and this very valuable Corpse Guard with Balefire are holding on. And because of that, we do have kind of a solid anchor. These two Graveguard, of course, the most important part of this anchor, is able to hold things. And the Trebuchet trying to help is unfortunately probably doing more harm than good at this point, because there are a lot of infantry models and a lot of cavalry models that it has killed off. Over here, the Red Duke is going to engage on the Fan Enchantress, who he can beat pretty handily in close quarters, even without using LC for any of his buffs. And unfortunately for my opponent, he is basically out of ammo on his archers at this point, and with no ammo, the Vargulf, who is somewhere over here, if I could find him, I'm not entirely sure where Varg went, but the Vargulf is over here chasing the Damsel of Heavens, trying to catch her, is still going to be a very potent force. He does regen, he's not relying on my Winds of Magic to be healed up, and of course he does cause fear, terror, all those things, which are so very strong against the Brettonians. And although we will start losing our Corpse Guard with Balefire here, you can see those Trebuchets just doing so much friendly fire there. And well, we lose this guy. Our Heroic Core is hanging around. One of the other cool things is that the vampires, although perhaps not the most amazing melee combatant, and of course having fairly low HP, she does have access to this cool little ability. We quickly zoom over. Besides the hunger, she also does have Immortal Will, which grants her a burst of healing, and is an incredibly powerful ability. So thanks to that, she's going to be able to stick around once again without help from the Red Duke, and that means the Red Duke can really invest his remaining Winds of Magic on summons and on bringing in Skeleton Warriors and Zombies to distract and deny my opponent. Here in the pits, the Vargulf is getting clocked in the face, but we are going to hit the Enchantress with an LC and start beating her down. You can see her HP is going to start dropping a bit here, though of course surrounded by peasants here, we definitely do not have the best of engagements. The Knights of Lionheart are going to dive in here. They are now down to 5 models, and we are going to order Vargi to try to attack them, but he's constantly just getting distracted. And if we look around, you can see these knights, they're trying the darndest, but the Vargulf is just such a potent force. And despite everything, Vargulf does have respectable melee stats. It's important to keep in mind. 53 and 47 right now with those 2 chevrons. Really no pushover. It's actually got comparable melee stats to even a higher Titan, which is significantly more expensive. Certainly, obviously, it doesn't have the armor or the HP or any of those things, but it is important to keep in mind that it's not like a giant with only 35 melee defense. It definitely can soak up or dodge some damage. Elsewhere, you can see the Damsel of Heavens is finally going to give up on the fight. She's going to rout here because the Vargulf just clocks her in the face, and she decides that she's had enough. Enchantress is more essentially my zombies here, but, you know, or actually they're Skeleton Warriors, but they're Skeleton Warriors, they're summoned. Not too much of a concern, and the Mortis Engine effect no longer really having too much of an advantage against these other troops. We are able to sort of push off these mounted yeomen, and this archer battery and these archers and these knights, they're really just no longer going to be able to take us apart. The Red Duke alone, even though he's hit his healing cap at this point, is still such a beast, and Vargulf still hasn't quite hit his healing cap. He's still able to dish out quite a lot of hurt, sitting on 2200 HP, able to get some damage in on these knights errant. And despite the Enchantress's best efforts, we are going to be able to sort of tear these guys apart. You can see they're losing models. The Red Duke's going to dive in there. The Skeleton Warriors are going to appear. And these troops are going to decide, they're going to think better of it. They're going to start routing away. You can see the Skeleton Warriors over here chasing off these archers. The balance of power is now decisively swinging in my opponent's favor, or in my favor, but my opponent's still sticking around, fighting to the bitter end, trying to keep his Enchantress alive. And you can see trying to wait, get his other troops rallied, trying to get some value out of his remaining trebuchet rounds. And things definitely, you know, they're still taking a while. So over here we are actually going to have an interesting situation. The Vargulf is going to dive in. He's going to absolutely level these Knights of Lionheart. And my opponent actually made a little bit of a mistake with the use of the Favor of the Fae there, because surprisingly these mounted yeomen, because they've got those chevrons, they're actually not routing. The Vargulf isn't actually killing them fast enough, and they're actually kind of clinging on, doing okay, and surprisingly doing some damage, because the Vargulf has lost a couple hundred HP there. Definitely not having the best of times. He's being hit from all sides because he's surrounded, and it's actually looking a little hairy because he is getting whittled down somewhat decisively, and he's almost hit his healing cap. Definitely not looking too great, but finally Terror does kick in, and we're going to be able to force off these mounted yeomen. So a few of them do fall, actually quite a few, probably about half of the remaining ones do fall there, but nonetheless definitely some nasty stuff. With the mounted yeomen zoned off, we are now going to be able to pull our Vargulf back. You can see my opponent's last sort of ditch effort there, trying to rally in the background. But despite the Trebuchet's best efforts, we are going to be able to snag the Enchantress out here, and as the Red Duke does try to take her down, we do manage to end that game. So you can see she just fall into the ground there, blood spurting from her. So pretty fun fight, and definitely a bit of entertaining ridiculousness. Now, neither of our builds here were very competitive. Both were pretty horrible. Both included 2 casters. I does not really know how to build armies. Oftentimes, when we were playing, you would often have no caster. You'd often have builds. We did you'd have just horrible builds that would just would not go well against each other. This was probably the most reasonable of the matchups. Probably the closest of the bunch. The one that was least decided preemptively. All things considered, I think the fact that my opponent did not snipe out the Vargulfs a little earlier, that he didn't focus them, that he tried to use his archers on other targets like the Corpse Guard with Balefire, might have been one of the critical factors there. The Vargulfs proved to be an absolute linchpin into the end game. Had Prisoner of Warhammer been able to snipe these guys, I might have been in a much grimmer position into the late game, because without the Vargulfs, this army could just not have really held up. The Vampire of Death and Red Duke could have easily been cycle charged by those remaining knights, which the Vargulfs denied them the opportunity to do. And I think that was probably the biggest problem for this comp. Obviously, there's nothing to be gleaned from these comps. They're auto-regen comps. But regardless, I had a lot of fun games with Prisoner of Warhammer. I might be putting up the legit match we had as well, because I thought that was actually a really good game as well. That was actually a very nice match. And I'll hopefully get around to putting that one as well in the coming days. But definitely thank you for playing probably about like half a dozen games of of customs until we got a decent one. I had a lot of fun. It's definitely entertaining. I might try to do custom. I might try to do auto gens in quick match proper with no former agreement. That might go a little worse, but nonetheless, I had a lot of fun. I hope Prisoner of Warhammer had a lot of fun too, and I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to leave a like and subscribe down below. If you have any comments, any criticism, as usual, don't hesitate to share. I'll do my best to respond as soon as I can. I thank you all for watching, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye for now.